If you're like most pre-med students, you're dreading secondary season because you've heard that you'll have to cram months worth of writing into just a couple of weeks. It's true that you won't be able to access each medical school's secondary prompts until after they've received and verified your primaries. And that can take anywhere from a few days if you submitted your primaries early to several weeks if you waited until July. But you don't have to retreat into a cave over the summer to write 50 secondary essays from scratch. There's no reason to wait until the moment you receive your secondary applications to actually start working on them. In this 6-video series, we'll help you prepare for just about any secondary essay medical schools could throw your way. Each video will cover one of the 6 common medical school secondary essay categories: the diversity essay, the adversity essay, the why us essay, the gap year essay, the leadership essay, and the additional information essay. We'll show you how to extensively pre-write in the months leading up to receiving your secondary applications, and then, step by step, we'll show you how to turn a weak essay into one that will stand out and impress adcoms. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can be the first to see our new uploads with all the latest updates and guidance on med school admissions. In this video, we'll be unpacking the diversity essay. You may have heard that the diversity essay requires you to write about what makes you ethnically, racially, or socioeconomically unique. And although you certainly can write about one of those topics, your options are far wider. Med school adcoms want their student bodies to include a wide variety of worldviews, background experiences, and ideas so that students can learn from one another and develop the core skills like cultural competency and empathy that are essential in any good physician. Because med schools define diversity so broadly, their diversity essay prompts can take on a number of different forms. While some mention the word diversity in the prompt, not all do. Instead, they may emphasize words like identity, community, and perspective. Here are just 2 examples of what this variation can look like. Quinnipiac University's Frank H. Netter, MD School of Medicine's prompt reads, "Netter SOM is a diverse and inclusive community, and we believe that each person brings their own unique experiences and attributes. How have your experiences, personal family background, or personal identity impacted your values and attitudes in working with others who will be both similar and different from you?" The prompt for Netter School of Medicine tells you that they believe each person brings their own unique experiences and attributes. They want to know about what makes you, you, how your experiences have shaped your values, and how those values will influence the way you work with the various different kinds of people you'll encounter both as a medical student and as a physician. Whether you come from a background that's underrepresented in medicine or from one that's well represented, your story is worth telling. On the other hand, University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine's prompt reads, "The Perelman School of Medicine, PSOM, is deeply committed to recruiting a diverse class to enrich an inclusive team-based learning experience. How would you and your experiences contribute to the diversity of the student body, and/or how would you contribute to an inclusive atmosphere at PSOM?" In this prompt, UPenn's Perelman School of Medicine indicates that they care a lot about enriching an inclusive, team-based learning experience. They ask you to describe how you plan to add your own unique experiences or perspectives into the mix among their diverse student body, or how you plan on actively working to make the learning environment a more inclusive space. These plans don't have to be big and flashy, by the way. Intentional conversations among students, between students and faculty, and even between students and patients can be just as instrumental in creating an inclusive learning atmosphere as campus-wide initiatives and organizations. Did you notice how each of these prompts begins with a statement? Pay close attention to these kinds of statements, which provide key details about what a given medical school's institutional values are and why they're about to ask you the following question. Now that you have an idea of the different forms diversity essay prompts can take, let's look at some pre-writing prompts you can use to start developing these essays before you even see your secondary prompts. Pre-writing in the spring and early summer can save you tons of unnecessary stress and prevent burnout when you finally get your secondary applications. For each of these pre-writing prompts, we recommend setting a timer for 10 minutes and writing nonstop until the timer goes off. If you aren't satisfied with your responses, or if you feel like you need more time to develop your ideas, reset the timer for 10 more minutes and keep writing. The idea is to get all of the ideas out, both good and bad. 1. Write a list of your identities. These could be related to your ethnic, racial, or cultural background, your religion, your geographic location, your hobbies, or a number of other things that make you who you are. Where does your sense of identity come from, and what does it mean to you? 2. How often and in what way do you engage with the communities associated with each of these identities? What do you like about being a part of these communities/identities? What do you find challenging? Write down specific examples. 3. List out your quirks, unique, weird, funny, or unexpected characteristics that make you who you are. How do you feel about them? How do others perceive them? How do you know? 4. List a few times you had to directly communicate or work with a person whose ideas, life experiences, or worldview was really different from yours. What communication approaches did you use? What did you learn, and how did you grow from that experience? When you finish responding to each pre-writing prompt, go back over your writing and highlight anything that stands out to you as potential material to include in your diversity essays, even if you don't want it to be a main topic. You're creating an information bank to draw on when you actually start working on your essays in the summer. To browse all the prompts for every medical school in the US and Canada, as well as over 1,000 full-length sample essays in response to those prompts, be sure to check out our Secondary Essay Premium Example Hub. Now let's turn to an example of how to improve a weak draft of Yale School of Medicine's diversity essay. The prompt reads, Yale School of Medicine values diversity in all its forms. How will your background and experience contribute to this important focus of our institution and inform your future role as a physician? Applicants will need to respond within 500 words. First, notice how this prompt explicitly opens up your options for which type of diversity to write about with the use of the phrase in all its forms. Like with any diversity essay, your response should tell a story that incorporates details about the people, places, or experiences that have significantly impacted your worldview. But this prompt requires you to go a step further than just telling a story. You'll also need to explain how you plan to actively contribute to the campus community. And the more you can showcase your knowledge of the community, clinical opportunities, and resources unique to their institution, the better you can convince them that you already have a game plan for how you'll contribute as both a student and a future physician. A weak, possibly first draft of your response might look something like this. I had the privilege of growing up in a community with high-quality schools and access to all the resources I could ever need to take care of my health and educational needs. I realized that not everyone has access to the same opportunities and resources as me, so I sought out various opportunities that would allow me to give back to my community through service. Over the past several years, I have thoroughly enjoyed teaching math and science to middle schoolers and volunteering at Care Clinic in downtown Dallas. With this first paragraph, the student has done a decent job of acknowledging socioeconomic inequalities in their own community. However, they failed to give examples of specific things they have witnessed or individuals with whom they have interacted that sparked an awareness within them and motivated them to start volunteering at Care Clinic. Beyond that, they failed to explain why they chose to improve their community through medicine rather than any other line of work. Let's continue with the second paragraph. During my time at Care Clinic, I observed that the doctors were passionate about their community, and I developed a very deep respect for each of them as I watched them consistently put their patients' needs and concerns above all else. They also showed a great degree of skill in juggling multiple tasks at one time, which is essential for a clinic that serves such a wide variety of patients of different ages and conditions. It was wise of this student to spend a large portion of their essay reflecting on their time at Care Clinic, but they're going to need to make some significant revisions so that it portrays them in a more active role. In this draft, the student has included observations about how passionate, selfless, and adaptable the doctors at Care Clinic are, but they don't illustrate how doctors were going above and beyond. They also don't mention anything about the work they themselves were doing. How will the admissions committee know that they didn't just watch a documentary about Care Clinic Dallas instead of actually volunteering there? Also, the student still hasn't given us any examples to demonstrate the socioeconomic inequalities they refer to in the introduction. Recall that the prompt asked them to demonstrate the ways in which they value diversity and how they'll uphold that value at Yale. How does this volunteer experience relate to the student's understanding of and commitment to diversity? De-identified examples of patients whom they interacted with or closely observed could help make this essay feel more personal, memorable, and relevant to the prompt. Now let's read the final paragraph. Further, I started translating for Spanish-speaking patients during my time at Care Clinic, which was an extremely humbling, eye-opening, and rewarding experience. I learned about many of the issues that people in the community face, and I am now committed to improving public transportation access for underprivileged people in the community. At Yale School of Medicine, I'll continue to pursue this goal of improving lives through providing quality healthcare in an environment that always puts the patient first. Now that we've gone to the end of this essay draft, ask yourself, am I convinced? Do I think the student has a clear and thorough understanding of the importance of diversity in a healthcare setting? Do I have a good grasp of the experiences and interactions that led them to that point? Can I identify what particular issues they care about, why they care about them, and how they plan to address those issues as a student and a physician? Am I confident that Yale is the best place for them to pursue medicine? It's safe to say that this draft leaves way too much to the imagination. When the student mentions how their time at Care Clinic was extremely humbling, eye-opening, and rewarding, we're left wondering, in what way? Additionally, they mentioned that they're committed to improving public transportation access without ever mentioning how they arrived at that point. Was it a result of something they observed during a doctor-patient encounter? A conversation they had with a patient in the waiting room? All of these crucial details have been left out. And lastly, the closing sentence in this draft falls quite flat. If a final sentence could have been copied and pasted from an essay written for any other medical school, after replacing the school name of course, it needs a major upgrade. Nothing about improving lives through providing quality healthcare in an environment that always puts the patient first is unique to Yale. This should be the goal of any medical institution. What aspects of the culture, opportunities, or resources at Yale Medical School are a particularly excellent fit for this student and their personal goals in medicine? With these critiques in mind, remember that first drafts aren't meant to be perfect, and sometimes you have to get bad or unpolished ideas out of your head and onto the page before you can work out how to make them better. After a few more drafts involving significant revisions and rewriting, we can take that weak essay and make it excellent. Here's the first paragraph of the revised essay. Having had the privilege of attending quality schools all my life, I'm almost embarrassed to admit how little I knew about the obstacles facing the youth of Dallas's inner city public school system. During the summer of my sophomore year, however, I worked as a tutor for StudyWell, a nonprofit focused on increasing educational opportunities for grade school students in my hometown of Dallas. While teaching math and science to my young students, I realized that the barriers to their education extended far beyond the classroom. Many of their parents were unable to afford transportation to get them to and from school in a timely manner, meaning some kids had to commute on buses for up to 2 hours each way. Seeing these bright young kids be forced to work twice as hard to overcome the obstacles in their educational journey opened my eyes to other disparities in quality of life all around me. I decided to make it my lifelong mission to mend these gaps through healthcare. From the very first paragraph of this new draft, we already have so much more context for how the student became aware of the inequalities within their community. They provide detailed examples of the specific barriers that they observed grade school students facing during their time as a tutor, and they also take time to reflect on how these barriers further ingrain inequality. Their final sentence serves as a transition to signal that they're about to explain which experiences led them to choose medicine as their primary mode of addressing socioeconomic inequality. The next paragraph reads, Texas is home to many immigrants, and because the lack of access to health insurance disproportionately affects these communities, many rely on free clinics to receive primary and urgent care services. To learn more about the specific trials these communities face and what I can do to address them, I took on a volunteering position at Care Clinic in downtown Dallas. There, I've worked as a Spanish to English translator for hundreds of patients, and through serving as an intermediary between these patients and their healthcare, I've learned that a large portion of Texas's immigrant community lacks access to preventative care. This often means that they wait until their symptoms worsen before seeking medical help. It's all starting to make sense now, right? In this paragraph, we learned that the student decided to volunteer at Care Clinic in downtown Dallas because they wanted to learn more about the specific problems immigrant communities face when trying to access healthcare and how they can become a part of the solution. The student also provides far more detail about their volunteer role, which allows them to interact directly with both doctors and patients as a translator. And finally, we learned that through these experiences at Care Clinic, the student has identified a specific issue within healthcare that they want to focus on addressing as a medical student and a future physician. They want to help increase access to preventative care within immigrant communities so that patients don't wait until symptoms have progressed before they seek care. Now let's move on to the final two paragraphs. As the doctors at Care Clinic work tirelessly to treat the patient's ailments, I decided to utilize my past tutoring work to help educate our patient population on preventative care offerings provided for free by the clinic. Through consulting with the doctors, I designed Spanish language pamphlets that detailed not only the services we could provide, like checkups and screenings, but also common symptoms to watch out for, such as fevers or rashes, and seek a doctor's opinion on immediately. I've also begun negotiations with the city's public transportation services to provide ride vouchers for patients who need to visit the clinic but cannot afford the transportation cost to do so. In the long term, I aim to utilize my medical career to help bridge the systemic gaps in healthcare access affecting underprivileged communities. To gain the skills necessary to do so, I'll take part in Yale's initiatives such as Haven, the student-run free clinic, and supplement my medical education with elective courses through the School of Public Policy to learn how to tackle non-health related obstacles that currently prevent disadvantaged populations from accessing care. In these final two paragraphs, the student has given crystal clear examples of what actions they took, such as creating Spanish language pamphlets on services and preventative measures, and negotiating with local public transport to secure ride vouchers to and from the clinic. They've also explained how these actions relate to their long-term goal of bridging the systemic gaps in healthcare access that affect underprivileged communities. Then they go a step further by specifying how they will pursue those goals at Yale. Rather than just giving a generic example that could apply to any medical school, they mention Yale's Haven initiative and elective courses they plan to take, which will help them accomplish their goal of increasing access to healthcare for underprivileged communities. What a difference a few rounds of revision can make. Whereas the initial draft of this essay was vague, unmemorable, and impersonal, the final draft is excellent. The student thoroughly addressed the two core questions in the prompt. How will you use your prior experiences to contribute to Yale School of Medicine's valuing of diversity in all its forms, and how will you carry this value into your future role as a physician? And although they themselves don't come from an underrepresented or disadvantaged background, their essay demonstrates a nuanced understanding of the challenges that individuals from such backgrounds often face, and it tells a compelling story about the actions they've already taken to address those challenges. Medical school diversity essay prompts are among the most common you'll encounter during secondary season, and they're also often the most misunderstood. By using these pre-writing exercises and revision methods, you'll be able to craft an essay that shows medical school adcoms why you would be a meaningful and worthwhile addition to their campus community. For more essay writing strategies pertaining to the adversity essay, the Why Us essay, the gap year essay, the leadership essay, and the additional information essay, check out our other videos in the secondary series. And whether you've already got your essays drafted, you're in the brainstorming stage, or you're still just thinking about the brainstorming phase, be sure to check out our secondary essay premium example hub to browse over 1,000 full-length sample essays for every single prompt required by every single medical school in the US and Canada. Happy writing.